The void between star systems had always been Captain Vexara's sanctuary. For 37 solar cycles she had navigated the treacherous depths of the Zarn Collective's exploratory fleet, her six-fingered hands dancing across quantum reactive control interfaces with the precision of a surgeon. But nothing in her extensive career could have prepared her for what materialized on her ship's primary viewing screen. What appeared to be a human vessel hung in space like a wounded predator, silent, yet crackling with an energy that made the very quantum fabric of reality seem to shudder. The ship was unlike any human design the Zarn had ever encountered. Its hull wasn't merely a metal shell, but a living, breathing membrane that seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. "Quantum resonance is off the charts," muttered Kriltex, the ship's junior navigator. His translucent skin had gone several shades paler, a physiological response to extreme stress that was rarely seen among Zarn warriors. Vexara's secondary eyes, the ones evolved to detect minute energy fluctuations, began to twitch. Something was wrong. Profoundly, fundamentally wrong. The human vessel showed no standard signs of life, no active power signatures, no communication channels. Yet, it didn't appear damaged. Instead, it looked like something was waiting, watching. "Full spectral analysis," she commanded, her voice a low growl that vibrated the translation implants of her bridge crew. Holographic displays erupted around her, each showing different layers of scanning data. Quantum signatures danced in impossible patterns. Energy readings fluctuated in ways that defied known physical laws. The ship's hull seemed to be simultaneously solid and liquid, matter and energy existing in a state that should be impossible. Kriltex's scanning report came back, and he nearly fell out of his stabilization harness. "Captain, these readings, they don't make sense. The ship's material composition is changing at the quantum level. It's like it's thinking." Vexara had seen many strange things in her decades of space exploration. The Zarn Collective prided itself on technological superiority, on understanding the fundamental mechanics of the universe. But this human vessel challenged everything they believed they knew. "Proximity alert," shouted Zarnak, the tactical officer. "The vessel's energy signature is responding to our scan. Responding. Not reacting. Responding." The ship's hull began to shimmer, its surface rippling like liquid metal. Geometric patterns formed and dissolved in milliseconds, creating complex designs that looked simultaneously like advanced technological schematics, and something more. Something almost artistic. "It knows we're here," Kriltex whispered, a statement that would have been dismissed as superstition by any other crew, but not here, not now. Vexara had seen derelict ships before. Abandoned vessels from a dozen different species littered the cosmic graveyards between star systems. Some were remnants of ancient wars, others were victims of stellar disasters or navigational errors. But this human ship was different. This wasn't a corpse. This was a predator playing dead. Historical records of human technological capabilities flashed through her mind. The Zarn knew humans were an emerging species, young, allegedly primitive compared to galactic civilizations that had traversed stars for millennia. They were considered barely worth monitoring, a potentially interesting species that hadn't yet developed true interstellar capabilities. Those records suddenly felt like dangerous underestimations. "Full defensive protocols," Vexara commanded. "But do not, I repeat, do not engage weapon systems. We observe. We do not provoke." The bridge went silent. Even the ship's quantum drive seemed to hold its breath. The human vessel continued to pulse, to watch, to wait. Junior Navigator Kriltex suddenly vomited, a rare and terrifying reaction for a Zarn warrior. The ship's quantum-level disruptions were causing physiological responses that no training could prepare them for. This was no ordinary abandoned vessel. This was a predator, waiting to be unleashed. The facility beneath the Andes Mountains was no ordinary research complex, carved into solid granite, reinforced with materials that could withstand a direct nuclear strike. The Contingency Preparation Division made Manhattan Project security look like an open-air farmer's market. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, stood before a holographic display that pulsed with the intricate design of the Prometheus protocol. Her fingers, scarred from countless lab accidents and combat simulations, traced the quantum adaptive hull schematics with a mixture of maternal pride and cold calculation. "Status report," she demanded, her voice cutting through the low hum of quantum processors and advanced cooling systems. Marcus Chen, her second-in-command, approached with a data pad that contained information most governments would kill to possess. Quantum entanglement matrix is at 99.9987% stability. The adaptive AI has completed its most recent threat scenario simulation. The wall behind them wasn't a wall at all, but a massive display showing the personal histories of the team. Each member carried a story of loss, of survival against impossible odds. Rodriguez's own history was etched in the most prominent position, a reminder of why the Prometheus protocol existed. 5 years ago, her entire research team had been obliterated during a covert mission to the Epsilon Eridani system. An alien species, never officially identified, had destroyed their research station with a precision that suggested something far beyond random violence. 37 brilliant minds, reduced to atomic dust in less than 17 minutes. The official report called it a navigational accident. Rodriguez knew better. "Show me the latest threat model," she commanded. The holographic display transformed, revealing a three-dimensional projection of potential galactic threats. Each potential scenario was color-coded, tagged with probability matrices that would make most military strategists weep. Red zones indicated high-risk encounter potentials. Blue zones showed diplomatic possibilities. But it was the gray areas, the unknown variables, that truly fascinated Rodriguez. Marcus pulled up a specific simulation. The Zarn Collective has been increasing their exploratory missions. Their quantum scanning capabilities have improved by 37% in the last solar cycle. Rodriguez's lips curled into something that might generously be called a smile. "Good. Let them look. Let them scan." The Prometheus protocol wasn't just a ship. It was a message, a statement, a quantum-level diplomatic communique that would reshape how the galaxy viewed humanity. "Tell me about the psychological warfare module," Rodriguez said, her eyes never leaving the holographic display. Chen's fingers danced across the interface, pulling up layers of complex algorithms. "It's beyond traditional electronic warfare. We're talking about a system that can read quantum-level emotional and psychological signatures. It doesn't just defend, it understands. It anticipates." The room was a testament to human ingenuity and trauma. Personal mementos were displayed, alongside cutting-edge technology. A child's drawing, a fragment of a destroyed colony ship, a piece of alien technology that had cost 3 research teams their lives. Each item told a story of survival. "The adaptive AI is unlike anything we've ever created," Chen continued. "It learns. It evolves. More importantly, it protects." Rodriguez remembered the briefing that had started this entire project. The United Earth Contingency Board, a group of military, scientific, and diplomatic leaders who understood that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to prepare for the unimaginable. "We are not going to be caught with our pants down again," the board's chairman had said during that pivotal meeting. "The Prometheus protocol is our insurance policy, our statement to the galaxy." The ship was designed to be more than a weapon. It was a living, thinking entity that embodied humanity's most dangerous trait, the ability to adapt, to learn, to survive. "Quantum entanglement test in 3 minutes, a computer voice announced. Rodriguez touched a small locket around her neck, the only photograph of her research team that survived the Epsilon Eridani massacre. "We're ready," she whispered. The facility hummed with potential energy. Decades of human determination, of scientific breakthrough, of pure survival instinct were about to be tested. The Prometheus protocol wasn't just a ship. It was humanity's promise to the universe. We will not be victims again. The moment the Zarn boarding team's quantum phase transporters locked onto the human vessel, reality itself seemed to hiccup. Commander Vexara watched in mounting horror as her most elite infiltration team materialized and immediately began to fracture. The first signs were subtle. Tactical specialist Nirac's environmental suit began to liquefy, its adaptive polymers turning against him with impossible precision. The suit didn't just fail, it became an active predator, constricting and reshaping itself around the Zarn warrior's body. "Containment breach!" Krilltek screamed from the scout ship's bridge. "Their quantum signatures are destabilizing." But it was far more than a simple technological defense. The ship was hunting them. Holographic projections erupted around the Zarn. Borders, not simple illusions, but quantum-locked manifestations that pulled directly from their deepest psychological profiles. Each projection was a personalized nightmare, constructed from fragmented memories and subconscious fears. For Zarmex, the team's demolitions expert, the hallucinations showed his home colony being consumed by a biomechanical storm, a recurring nightmare he'd suppressed for decades. The projection was so precise, so viscerally real, that he could smell the burning atmosphere, feel the quantum-level disintegration of his civilization. His combat training evaporated. He fell to his knees, paralyzed by memory. The ship wasn't just defending itself. It was dissecting the Zarn boarding team at a psychological level that defied conventional warfare. Tactical systems began to twist in on themselves. Energy weapons turned against their wielders, quantum entanglement transforming each weapon into a self-targeting missile that hunted the very being who had activated it. The laws of physics became suggestions, not absolutes. "This isn't possible," Vexara muttered, her secondary visual organs struggling to process the impossible scene unfolding on her bridge's primary display. Deep within the Andes mountain complex, Dr. Rodriguez watched with clinical precision. Each boarder's physiological and psychological response was being meticulously recorded, analyzed, cataloged. Quantum dissonance field at 78%, Marcus Chen reported, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. Psychological warfare. Module is performing beyond initial projections. The Prometheus protocol was showing its true nature. This wasn't just a ship. It was a living, thinking weapon system that understood its opponents at a level far beyond traditional military intelligence. Nirac's combat suit continued its nightmarish transformation. Nano-adaptive materials began to interface directly with his neural pathways, creating a feedback loop of pure psychological terror. His own technological enhancements were being weaponized against him. "Disengage," Vexara commanded, her voice rising to a pitch that would have shattered glass in a standard environment. Immediate quantum retreat. But retreat was impossible. The ship had already locked their quantum signatures. Each attempt to disengage only pulled them deeper into its adaptive defensive matrix. It was learning, analyzing, preparing. Marcus Chen noticed something extraordinary. The ship's defensive systems aren't just blocking the borders, they're studying them. Every quantum fluctuation, every neural response is being mapped and understood. Dr. Rodriguez's eyes never left the display. "That's the point," she said softly. "We're not just defending, we're communicating." On the boarding team's comms, a sound began to emerge. Not static, not interference. Something else entirely. A pattern. A message. The ship was talking to them, not in words, in quantum frequencies that bypassed language, that spoke directly to the fundamental nature of consciousness. Zarmex began to laugh, then cry, then laugh again. The line between terror and understanding had become impossibly thin. Quantum entanglement. Complete, the ship's AI announced. Not to the Zarn. To Rodriguez and her team. The boarding team wasn't being destroyed. They were being comprehensively understood. Vexara realized the terrible truth in that moment. This wasn't a battle. This was a first contact scenario beyond anything the Zarn Collective had ever imagined. Humanity wasn't just preparing for a potential threat. They were rewriting the entire concept of interstellar conflict. The Prometheus protocol pulsed, watched, waited. Predator had become professor. Weapon had become messenger. The first wave of psychological assault hit like a quantum tsunami. Commander Vexara felt reality fracture around her, memories flooding her consciousness with a precision that defied natural law. The ship, no, the weapon, wasn't just defending. It was dismantling the very fabric of Zarn's psychological integrity. Memories emerged, not random hallucinations. Perfect, crystalline reconstructions of the most traumatic moments in Zarn collective history. The Battle of Crimson Nebula played out with horrifying clarity. Vexara watched, no, relived, the moment her entire preliminary scout fleet was obliterated by an unknown technological anomaly. 17 ships, 4,312 lives, reduced to atomic dust in less than 17 minutes. But this time, she experienced every single death. Not as a commander, as each individual soldier. The quantum adaptive memory weapon didn't just show the memories, it made her live them, feel them, understand them at a cellular level. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the psychological assault unfold with clinical precision. Beside her, Marcus Chen managed a complex array of monitoring systems, his fingers dancing across quantum reactive interfaces. Psychological penetration at 92.6%, he reported. Quantum resonance is maintaining perfect synchronization. The Prometheus protocol was doing something unprecedented. It wasn't destroying the Zarn boarding team. It was comprehensively understanding them, breaking them down to their most fundamental psychological components, then reconstructing that understanding into a communication matrix. On the bridge of the Zarn scout ship, junior navigator Creel Tex began to experience something beyond terror. Memories of his species' most profound failures cascaded through his consciousness. The first contact with humans decades ago. A misunderstood communication that led to the destruction of a human research outpost. Creel Tex saw it now, not from the Zarn perspective, but from every human perspective simultaneously. He could feel the fear, the confusion, the absolute horror of miscommunication that led to unintended genocide. Psychological stabilization impossible, the ship's medical AI announced. But it wasn't a statement of failure. It was an observation of transformation. Dr. Rodriguez understood the true purpose of this assault. This wasn't about destruction. This was about communication on a level no species had ever attempted. The memory weapon is creating empathy, she muttered, more to herself than to Chen. We're not fighting. We're forcing understanding. Each Zarn boarding team member experienced their species' most profound moments of failure, of miscalculation, of unintended destruction. The memories weren't just replayed, they were lived, experienced with a multidimensional complexity that defied traditional psychological warfare. Zarmex, the team's demolitions expert, relived the moment his own miscalculation had destroyed a neutral research station. But now he felt the pain of every researcher, every family member, every single life impacted by his single moment of professional error. The quantum-level assault continued, precise, calculated, devastating. We're not killing them, Marcus Chen observed. We're teaching them. Dr. Rodriguez's lips curled into something between a smile and a grimace. Exactly. The Prometheus protocol was rewriting the fundamental understanding of conflict. This wasn't a weapon of destruction. It was a weapon of comprehension. On the Zarn scout ship, several crew members went catatonic. Not from physical trauma, from the weight of understanding. Vexara experienced her entire career, every decision, every moment of leadership, from the perspective of those who had suffered because of those decisions. The quantum memory weapon didn't just show memories, it created absolute total empathy. Psychological penetration complete, the ship's AI announced. But it wasn't a statement of victory, it was a statement of communication. The Zarn boarding team wasn't destroyed. They were transformed. Humanity had just demonstrated a fundamental truth about conflict. Understanding was a more powerful weapon than any physical destruction. The Prometheus protocol pulsed, watched, waited. A message had been sent, not in words, not in weapons, in pure, unfiltered understanding. The galactic consensus chamber fell silent. Holographic representations of 17 different species flickered, with a collective tension that defied millennia of diplomatic protocol. The transmission from the human vessel, the Prometheus protocol, had just concluded, and nothing would ever be the same. Ambassador Krelnax of the Zarn Collective stood at the central podium, his translucent skin rippling with colors that spoke of deep psychological trauma. Behind him, the recorded encounter played on a massive quantum reactive display that captured every nuanced moment of the human ship's encounter with their boarding team. "They did not destroy us," Krelnax began, his voice a mixture of shame and something else, something that sounded suspiciously like respect. "They made us understand." The consensus chamber was more than a diplomatic meeting space. It was the nerve center of galactic political interactions, a place where centuries of carefully maintained power dynamics were negotiated, challenged, and sometimes violently defended. Today, those dynamics crumbled. The human transmission wasn't a threat. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was a comprehensive data package that laid bare humanity's technological capabilities, diplomatic intentions, and a stark warning about the nature of interstellar conflict. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, watching from her command center deep beneath the Andes, allowed herself the slightest hint of a smile. Marcus Chen leaned close. "The psychological profile analysis is complete. We've fundamentally altered the Zarn Collective's perception of humanity in less than 47 minutes of interaction." The data package was a masterpiece of diplomatic engineering. It demonstrated humanity's technological capabilities without appearing threatening. It showed humanity's capacity for violence, while simultaneously demonstrating an unprecedented commitment to understanding. More importantly, it revealed something no other species had ever considered. Humans were not interested in conquest. They were interested in communication. Each participating species in the consensus chamber received a tailored version of the transmission. The biomechanical hive of Tau Ceti received a communication focused on technological compatibility. The energy-based life forms of the Andromeda cluster received a transmission that spoke to quantum-level consciousness. No two transmissions were exactly alike. "They have weaponized empathy," muttered the representative from the Silicon Coalition, a collection of artificial intelligence-driven civilizations. Their quantum processors were working overtime, analyzing every microsecond of the transmission. Ambassador Krelnax continued his report. The psychological assault experienced by the Zarn boarding team wasn't a punishment. It was a lesson. A comprehensive demonstration of the consequences of miscommunication and unintended conflict. Political careers across multiple species began to crumble. Military strategies that had been developed over centuries suddenly looked obsolete. The very concept of interstellar conflict was being rewritten in real time. "Humanity has done something unprecedented," the Andromeda cluster representative observed. "They have turned a potential military encounter into a diplomatic masterpiece." Deep within the Prometheus protocol, the quantum adaptive AI processed the unfolding galactic response. It wasn't just observing, it was learning, evolving, understanding the complex interplay of species, motivations, and potential conflict scenarios. Dr. Rodriguez understood the true genius of their approach. This wasn't about showing strength. This was about demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to interstellar relations. "We're not just a species," she murmured to Chen. "We're a perspective." The transmission contained more than just technological capabilities. It included humanity's entire history. The struggles, the failures, the moments of profound unity and devastating conflict. Nothing was hidden. Everything was laid bare. The Silicon Coalition's representative made a statement that would be quoted for generations. "Humanity has not just entered the galactic stage, they have redefined the stage itself." Political analysts would later call this the Prometheus moment, the instant when humanity transformed from a barely noticed emerging species to a civilization that demanded respect. The Zarn Collective, once considering humanity a potential target, now viewed them with a mix of terror and profound respect. They had been comprehensively defeated without a single weapon being fired. As the consensus chamber continued its emergency session, one thing became crystal clear. Humanity was no longer just another species trying to survive in the galaxy. They were a force that would fundamentally reshape how civilizations understood conflict, communication, and coexistence. The Prometheus Protocol had fired its most powerful weapon, understanding. The United Earth Emergency Council convened in a facility so deep beneath the Antarctic ice that the pressure could crush conventional structures. This was no ordinary government meeting. This was humanity's war room, the place where the most critical decisions about the species' future were made. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that showed the real-time galactic response to the Prometheus Protocol's encounter. Each quantum-level reaction, each political shift was being analyzed with a precision that bordered on the supernatural. "They're falling apart faster than we predicted," Marcus Chen observed, his fingers dancing across multiple quantum reactive interfaces. The display showed the systematic collapse of existing galactic power structures. The Zarn Collective's military leadership was in complete disarray. Political careers were evaporating in real time. Entire strategic frameworks that had existed for centuries were being rewritten in microseconds. Admiral Catherine Reyes, the Council's most decorated military strategist, stepped forward. Her cybernetic eye, a remnant of the Mars colony conflict, scanned the data with a cold, calculated intensity. "This is more than a diplomatic victory," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "This is a complete recalibration of interstellar power dynamics." The council members represented humanity's most diverse and brilliant minds. Quantum physicists sat beside xenobiologists. Military strategists conversed with diplomatic experts. Each wore a neural interface that allowed instantaneous communication and data sharing. The Prometheus Protocol was never just a ship, Rodriguez explained. It's a systemic reset button for galactic politics. The holographic display showed the cascading effects. The Silicon Coalition was completely reassessing its military preparedness. The energy-based life forms of the Andromeda Cluster were experiencing something akin to a collective existential crisis. But the most profound changes were happening within human society. "We've been preparing for this moment for decades," Admiral Reyes continued. "Every conflict, every technological breakthrough, every moment of human struggle was leading to this." The room was a testament to humanity's journey. Artifacts from humanity's most challenging moments lined the walls. A fragment of the first Mars colony shield. A piece of the quantum communication array that survived the Pacific Rim conflict. Each item represented a moment of human survival, of adaptation. Marcus Chen pulled up a comprehensive analysis. The psychological warfare module performed beyond our most optimistic projections. We didn't just communicate. We fundamentally altered the Zarn Collective's understanding of conflict. Dr. Rodriguez's eyes never left the display. The quantum level data was more than numbers. It was a language of its own, a comprehensive communication that transcended traditional diplomatic channels. "This is why we developed the Prometheus Protocol," she said softly. "Not to destroy, to understand." The council members understood the profound implications. Humanity had just demonstrated a fundamental truth about interstellar relations. Violence was a failure of communication. Understanding was the ultimate weapon. Admiral Reyes accessed a classified file. "Our predictive models show a 94.3% reduction in potential conflict scenarios for the next 3 decades. The Prometheus Protocol has done more for human security than 1,000 battle fleets." The room fell silent. This was more than a technological achievement. This was a philosophical revolution. "We're not just protecting ourselves," Rodriguez explained. "We're teaching the galaxy a new way of existing." The neural interfaces began to pulse, each council member experiencing the same realization simultaneously. The Prometheus Protocol wasn't just a ship. It was a living, breathing demonstration of humanity's most profound capability, to understand, to adapt, to survive. Marcus Chen noticed something extraordinary in the data streams. The quantum communication matrices are still active. The ship is still learning, still analyzing. Admiral Reyes allowed herself a rare smile. Good. We've only just begun. Outside the facility, the Antarctic ice seemed to pulse with the same quantum energy that powered the Prometheus protocol. A metaphor perhaps for humanity's own nature. Cold, adaptive, waiting. The United Earth Emergency Council had just rewritten the rules of interstellar engagement. Humanity was no longer just another species trying to survive. They were becoming something else entirely. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a quantum-locked containment field that housed the core of the Prometheus protocol. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't an artificial intelligence. It was something else entirely, a living system of unprecedented complexity. Activate primary communication matrix, she commanded. The core pulsed. Not with light, not with energy, with something more fundamental. A quantum-level consciousness that defied every existing understanding of intelligence. Marcus Chen watched the readings, his neural interfaces struggling to process the sheer complexity of the system. It's more than an adaptive AI, he whispered. It's a living communication network. The Prometheus protocol had been designed with a purpose far beyond simple defense or diplomatic maneuvering. It was humanity's most ambitious project. A systemic approach to understanding and navigating interstellar relationships. Holographic displays erupted around the core, showing multiple layers of communication matrices. Each representation was a complex web of potential interactions, threat scenarios, and diplomatic possibilities. The system wasn't just analyzing, it was learning, evolving. Show me the comprehensive interaction model, Rodriguez demanded. The display transformed. Thousands of potential galactic scenarios played out simultaneously. Wars prevented, misunderstandings resolved, entire civilizations guided away from self-destruction through precise empathetic communication. Admiral Catherine Reyes entered the facility, her cybernetic eye scanning the displays with a mixture of scientific curiosity and military precision. It's a prophylactic communication system, she observed. We're not just defending, we're preventing. The true genius of the Prometheus protocol was its fundamental approach to interstellar relations. Traditional diplomatic models were reactive. This was predictive, preventative, a system that could identify potential conflicts generations before they could emerge. Each interaction is a learning opportunity, Rodriguez explained. Not just for us, for every species we encounter. The core pulsed again. The holographic displays showed the Zarn Collective's internal communications, not through intercepted messages, through a deeper, more profound understanding. The Prometheus protocol wasn't just collecting data, it was creating empathy. Marcus Chen pulled up a comprehensive analysis. We've reduced potential conflict scenarios by 94.7% across multiple potential galactic interaction models. This isn't just a defensive system, it's a peacekeeping mechanism. The facility itself was a testament to human preparation. Located deep beneath the Andes, reinforced to withstand multiple simultaneous nuclear strikes, it represented humanity's commitment to survival, not through violence but through understanding. The ship is more than a vessel, Admiral Reyes noted. It's a living diplomatic instrument. Holographic representation showed the multiple layers of the Prometheus protocol's communication capabilities. It could translate not just languages, but entire cultural contexts. It could predict misunderstandings before they could occur. It could guide civilizations away from conflict through precise, empathetic communication. Dr. Rodriguez touched the quantum-locked containment field. We're not just protecting ourselves, she said softly. We're protecting everyone. The core responded, not with words, with a quantum-level pulse that represented something between communication and understanding. It's learning to communicate, Chen observed. Not just with words, with fundamental understanding. Each interaction was stored, analyzed, used to create more comprehensive communication models. The Prometheus protocol wasn't just collecting data, it was building a comprehensive map of potential interstellar understanding. Admiral Reyes accessed a classified file. Preliminary models suggest we could prevent entire generations of potential conflicts, not through force, through understanding. The holographic displays showed potential scenarios, civilizations guided away from self-destruction, misunderstandings, resolved before they could escalate, a fundamental reimagining of interstellar relations. We're creating a new model of existence, Rodriguez explained, not just for humans, for everyone. The core pulsed again, a quantum-level communication that spoke of potential, of hope, of a fundamental reimagining of how civilizations could interact. Marcus Chen's neural interfaces began to overload. The sheer complexity of the communication matrices was beyond traditional understanding. "It's not just adaptive," he whispered. "It's alive." The Prometheus protocol represented humanity's most ambitious project, a living, thinking system designed to prevent conflict through the most powerful weapon in existence. Complete, fundamental, understanding. The facility hummed with potential, with possibility, with a future that had never been imagined before. Humanity wasn't just entering the galactic stage, they were rewriting the entire concept of interstellar existence. The Prometheus protocol returned to Earth not as a conquering weapon, but as a messenger. Its quantum-adaptive hull shimmered with the accumulated knowledge of an encounter that would reshape galactic understanding. As it descended through Earth's atmosphere, multiple planetary defense systems tracked its approach, not with fear, but with a sense of profound anticipation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the primary command center. The facility beneath the Andes Mountains had become something more than a research complex. It was now the epicenter of humanity's most ambitious diplomatic endeavor. "Quantum data transfer complete," Marcus Chen announced. His neural interfaces were working overtime, processing the vast amount of information collected during the mission. The encounter has generated 3.7 petabytes of comprehensive interspecies communication data. Admiral Catherine Reyes studied the holographic displays that showed the cascading political changes across multiple star systems. Entire diplomatic frameworks were being dismantled and reconstructed in real time. The Zarn Collective had been fundamentally transformed. What began as a potential military encounter had become a watershed moment of interstellar understanding. Their military leadership was in complete disarray, replaced by a new generation of diplomats who understood that communication was far more powerful than conflict. "We didn't just change their perspective," Rodriguez observed. "We gave them a new way of existing." The ship's return was more than a physical journey. It was a symbolic moment that represented humanity's most profound evolutionary leap. Holographic displays around the command center showed the global reaction. Unlike previous moments of first contact or technological breakthrough, there was no panic, no fear, just a collective sense of something profound happening. The Silicon Coalition is completely restructuring its approach to emerging civilizations, Chen reported. "Our communication matrices have fundamentally altered their understanding of intelligent life." The Prometheus protocol was more than a ship. It was a living communication system that had just demonstrated humanity's most powerful capability, the ability to transform potential conflict into comprehensive understanding. Admiral Reyes accessed a classified file. Predictive models show a 96.2% reduction in potential interstellar conflict scenarios for the next 5 decades, she said, her cybernetic eye calculating the implications. The ship's quantum adaptive core continued to process the encounter, not just the immediate interactions but the potential future scenarios. It was building a comprehensive map of interstellar communication that went beyond traditional diplomatic models. "We're creating a new language," Rodriguez murmured. "Not of words, of understanding." Global communication networks began to shift. The encounter with the Zarn Collective had become more than a military or diplomatic event. It was a philosophical transformation that would be studied for generations. Marcus Chen pulled up a comprehensive analysis. The psychological warfare module didn't just communicate, he explained. It created a fundamental empathy that transcends traditional communication barriers. The Prometheus protocol began to interface with Earth's global communication systems. Not to control, not to dominate, but to share, to understand, to evolve. Holographic displays showed potential future scenarios, civilizations guided away from conflict, misunderstandings resolved before they could escalate, a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact. This is why we developed the Prometheus protocol, Rodriguez said softly. Not to destroy, to understand. The ship's quantum adaptive hull began to transform. No longer just a vessel of defense, it had become a living communication network, a bridge between civilizations. Admiral Reyes understood the profound implications. We're not just protecting ourselves, she observed. We're protecting everyone. The global reaction was unlike anything in human history. No panic, no fear, just a collective sense of something extraordinary happening. As the Prometheus protocol settled into its quantum dock, the facility hummed with potential, with possibility, with a future that had never been imagined before. The ship wasn't returning home. It was bringing home a new understanding of humanity's place in the universe. Dr. Rodriguez touched the quantum-locked containment field. The core pulsed in response, not with energy but with something more fundamental. A communication that spoke of potential, of hope, of a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent civilizations could exist. Humanity had done something unprecedented. They had turned potential conflict into comprehensive understanding. The Prometheus protocol was more than a ship. It was a message to the universe. We are not alone, and we are ready to communicate.